Oh no, did we not?
No.
Oh
No,
no.
dear Lord, that's my fault. Welcome to recording a podcast for the first time ever, folks. We were just running for about 15 minutes, weren't recording. So we're going to take that from the
We're
top.
gonna start all over.
Yeah, we're going to start all over. Welcome to This Week in No Code with your host, JJ Englert, and my co-host, David Powell. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about so much. We have so much to unpack. In our news section, we'll dive into Bubble's newly released schedule for Bubblecon, also discuss the recent outage that they faced earlier this week. We'll touch on Airtable's strategic shift towards the enterprise sector. We'll also talk about Flutter Flow's exciting 4.0 update, which is kind of crazy. Really excited to get there. And then later on, we're going to be bringing in a guest, Doc Williams. He was also the author of the 2022 No Code Industry Report. So we'll talk about some of the findings that he found for this 2022 no code trends, and then talk about what we can expect for 2023. And then finally, we'll get into some community features and discussions before we end for our first podcast episode of This Week in No Code. That's right, you heard it. This is the first one. So if you have any suggestions on what we can do to improve, to make this better, please send it our way. But without further ado, let me send it over to my co-host, David, to start with our news for the day.
Hey guys, welcome to the first This Week in No Code news segment. Excited to tell you guys, if you haven't seen already, check your inbox, check the internet. Bubblecon 1.0 schedule has been announced. We're going to see lots of speakers. Very excited to hear from both Josh and Emmanuel, the co-founders and formerly co-CEOs, but now the founders of Bubble.io. They're going to be having a nice conversation about the future of Bubble, the future of no code, right up our alley, with Scott Belsky, who's leading strategy over at Adobe, who's pushing hard into AI, and Coda as well. This is a really interesting conversation. Big heavy hitters here.
Yeah, this one is probably my favorite one on the list so far.
Yeah, we're gonna see that. We're gonna hear from the VP of product, Alan. I know he's probably had a tough week, as we saw in the forum, and we'll talk more about that. But interested to see how that's going, and some pitches, some hackathon results, managing actual businesses, live successful businesses on Bubble. That'll be pretty cool to hear from some founders there, and actually a live Q&A. No more hiding off the internet from Josh and Emmanuel, where we're actually going to get people grilling them. I'm excited to see some of these questions.
How
Hopefully
long is that session? That
going to
one
be
is
all week.
just an hour.
There's
Okay,
no
so
way it ends in
we
an
could
hour.
probably do a half day of that, but an
Yeah,
hour will do
just
for now.
here are the questions we want to hear.
Yeah.
Would be really cool to hear what they have to say. Hopefully they're not screening these questions and we get to ask the tough ones, but that'll be really exciting. JJ, what do you think of the schedule?
I think first and foremost, I'm glad that this is happening, right? The community has been around for 10 years. It's the first time that they're doing this. I think that's a
About time.
huge
Yeah.
step in the right direction,
Yeah.
right? But I think the thing here is community. We're doing this for community, right? And we're pretty big members of the community, and we didn't hear anybody from their team reaching out to the community about what the community would like to see at something like this. So I'm
Mhm.
disappointed in that. This is a community or a company that's built around community, and the success is so much of the community. And they don't really leverage their community as well as they think they could,
Yep.
right? And in that vein, there's not really any community sessions. It's mostly founder-led sessions, CEOs from other big companies, which would be really cool, but CEOs from other big companies, internal team members. There's about maybe 5 to 7 total Bubble employees talking. And then there are a couple ones. Gregory John got his own design session, so
Which is
huge
great.
hats off to Gregory
Yep.
John for that. That's a big privilege and honor for him to get that. So, and he's well deserving. So, super stoked there. But he's really the only one. Like, we don't see AirDev, Zero Code. You don't see these people. Like, you would expect to see that. I would have loved to see like some kind of forum warrior session where like the biggest members of the forum all on a panel talking about like, how the forum should be and what improvements we should make going forward and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think you could have just done a better job making like-minded connections for people
Mhm.
that don't know anything about this community yet to bring them closer to the community and some of the bigger members involved in it.
Yeah, it does feel like this should be a event for the community, not as a sales presentation. Like this shouldn't be like social media nuggets of why Bubble is great and what to do. This should really be about leveling up the entire community. And I wish it was more like Salesforce's Dreamforce conference where everyone gives pitches on what they want to present, what they want to hear, and then they actually get to, give topics and talks. And so I think that's a little bit of a missed opportunity, but this is the first one. So, there's lots to grow from. So I'm excited to see what comes next.
Yeah,
Right.
agreed.
Yeah.
So I will be there, but you won't because you'll be
I won't
getting
be. I'm
married.
getting married that week. So I'll be probably stuffing goodie bags for hotel guests.
Well, we'll miss you there. The
Yeah.
producer of this show, This Week in No Code with us, Harrison Chase, he'll be there with me. We'll be
Right.
organizing some events to make it easier to get to know everybody. So stay tuned for those details. Really looking forward to meeting everyone in person, right?
Yeah.
We do want to talk about an incident that happened earlier this week. Bubble recently put out the postmortem on this. Generally, the summary of this is Bubble experienced a significant incident on September 11th, which impacted many users in the apps. Wasn't September 11th. I think it was what, the
That
18th?
was,
September 18th, just a couple days ago. The incident lasted for about 8 hours. It
it
went
was like 18 hours. It was like a whole
some
day.
something like that. I was actually they said the first bug came in at 4:20. I submitted mine at 4:28, so I was like, they must have gotten a
Well, over
lot of
there.
bugs right
Yeah.
then. I was trying to fill my bubble tips of the day, couldn't do it because I couldn't add dynamic expression into it. Anyways, what it ended up happening here is that core functionality for Bubble was down for about 18 hours, as you said. And so there was very little communication, no communication from the team acknowledging such. My bug report was submitted. They said, "Hey, this is a tier 2. We'll get back to you." And I didn't hear back from anybody. Everyone on Twitter, everyone was saying, "Hey, what's going on? This is all down." And that's important functionality. You can't use the editor in many ways when that's existing, right?
For sure.
And so they issued a really good postmortem. Their founders deserve a lot of credit. They're good, genuine people. I think true at heart, Josh and Emmanuel are very good, genuine people. I think they are trying the hardest they could possibly try to build this company. And I think generally they're doing a good job. I think it is a very big company. And they started as like a what, two-person company. Now it's over 100
Yeah.
after raising over $100 million. The skill sets required to run a two-person company to a 100+ person company are so different. The operations needed are so different. And Josh kind of alluded to that in his postmortem, saying, before it was just me after hours, people would call me. Now we've kind of grown and have a team for this, but haven't fully communicated, what's going on. And he mentioned something of like a cultural lag, meaning, what is important, what isn't important. When do you press the panic button? When do you not press the panic button? Who can press the panic button? All that sort of stuff lagged. And there was this corporate malfunction that happened because no one knew what to do. And no one was kind of given the keys to do anything with it, seemingly.
Yeah. I mean, they are in a really tough spot. They are building mission critical software for people to base their lives off of, right? Like I know, like if you're building a to-do list app, yeah, it's kind of annoying if something doesn't work as planned, but this is like livelihoods. People are building businesses. People are selling services built on this tool. I think, the bigger problem is that this is a pattern. And I know the postmortem shows that, hey, we're going to do better at escalating things and communicating. But I feel like we keep hearing that story. We're going to communicate better. We're going to continue to learn from these mistakes. And this keeps happening. I think they have, and he mentioned this. I'm glad you picked up on this in the postmortem as well. They have a lot of scar tissue from being bootstrapped. And this is like the balance of bootstrapping versus fundraising. Like in any business, this is a big problem. You have all of these behaviors because you don't have money, you can't hire the team, and so you make decisions. And I think this actually even impacts their code base. The code was written over such a long time by so few people that now there's a lot of tech debt and a lot of processes that need changing. But it's a little disappointing to know that they raised $100 million over 2 years ago. Like it's been a long time since they've had this money, and it still feels like they're running like a bootstrapped company. This happened with the pricing, right? We're like, what are you talking about? Why is this pricing changing?
Yeah.
And so I think crisis management is a problem that they haven't really solved yet. And I think we keep giving them the benefit of the doubt because, you don't wanna bite the hand that feeds you. But every time this happens, I get closer and closer to being an expert in a different tool.
Yeah. I think so many people are feeling that. We lost a lot of really good bubblers when the pricing update came out. It's just it's hard, right? I
Yeah.
feel like um
We saw
they're
this
still
with Unity. Like, Unity is a huge company. They just had all these issues with runtime pricing changes. Like,
yeah.
you definitely step on a lot of landmines managing a company this public with this big of a community. Everyone's watching. There's a lot going on. I don't envy their position. Uh,
Like Josh and Emmanuel gotta just have so much on their shoulder. I think they have just too much on their shoulders. They haven't been able to fully like give it out to other people yet to really it feels like they're still the ones having to pull every trigger in an unhealthy way, because of kind of how slow everything else has been. I think they also mentioned this, and I've alluded to this a lot, but they have a lot of tech debt, meaning they built this foundation 10 years ago, and it is a big foundation. Bubble's so great because you could do so much. Being able to do so much means you have a lot of technology. And that technology all needs to be QA'd, all that kind of stuff. And then when you're actually moving quick, there could be downstream things happening that are really adding up, right? And so, unfortunately, they have a lot of tech debt, and that is restraining them from moving as fast as other people in the space, such as the Flutter Flow that we're going to be talking about here soon, and WeWeb, and some of the other new players that are just building for the first time on this new tech stack. Now, I think all of these players, as they grow to bubble size, will experience problems of their own scaling, right? And
yep.
I do not think that this is just unique to bubble. I think maybe it's a little bit more exaggerated because of how things might be handled, but it's not unique to bubble. I think we'll see this everywhere as no code tools continue to scale at large.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. But with earnings and revenue and team size, everything kind of stabilizes a little bit, which brings us to the next point or the next news topic of the day. Airtable publicly moving towards the enterprise. They have announced that they've laid off a sizable portion of their workforce, almost 250 people, uh, making
27%.
almost 500 people since last year. Uh, Huge. I mean, it's a big company, right? That means they're at 1,000 people. They were at 1,000 people mid-December. They're putting that funding to use. But the CEO has said, "Hey, look, we need to go to the enterprise. We need to focus on acquiring those customers, and we need to start thinking about making money." Right? I think that's every company's job. Venture is hurting. Anything venture now means where's the exit? How do we get to public? So they're moving into enterprise.
Yeah.
Hubble has talked about trying to go into enterprise,
And they kind of made that move with their recent pricing announcement too, kind of
and their
acknowledging
SOC 2
something similar.
compliance.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like the move that every no-code company is trying to make now. I think I think one of the main reasons is because I think SaaS owners like us can understand that when you're servicing a million $10 clients, each of those $10 clients take customer service and
Mhm.
all this kind of stuff. And that's really hard. But if you're servicing 100,000, $100,000 companies, you know, you cut your customer service in half. You cut all this stuff in half, right? Or whatever. But the thing is like it's really hard to service so many companies that scale that just give you a little bit of money each month and really hit your servers in a very intensive way, right? And so when you go to really start to make a lot of money, the amount of people that you would have to, market to, the cost per acquisition for all those, and then the customer lifetime value of those little customers just might not be worth it and or moving the radar big enough for them to actually make big swings towards what, the new funding and or leadership needs in order to get to the next level, right? And so I think these bigger
Yeah.
companies just they wanna get to the enterprise customer so they can add, 20% top line each quarter rather than 20% new users, but only contributed the 2% top line.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. I think we see this in, like, the open source tech world as well. MongoDB, right? A big name. They started open source, free version, kinda run it yourself, get adoption, get people building things, get people loving the system, and then move into managed services and enterprise. And you go get huge clients with huge usage. and it's easier to sell. Like you can't send a salesperson to me and say, "Hey, I'm going to spend 10 hours with you trying to pitch you on $30 a month." No, you need $30,000 a month. Like that's the only way you can really do that. But enterprise and small business, like you eventually get some complexities that make it hard for the smaller apps to build and survive. And so there's a trade-off there as well.
Yeah. Let's
Again,
get on over to
yeah.
let's get on
Not
over to Flutter Flow
yeah.
4.0. We're gonna do a quick little thing showing you what they have in store for us because it really is just incredible stuff. Can you guys hear that? Fantastic. So I'm gonna do this at 2x. Well, some of the big recap here that first noticed is they have the marketplace. So they have a marketplace that they're coming similar to that of a bubble, like a technology ecosystem where you can buy templates and whatnot. They're introducing branching at a more team level for the first time, something that I think is, any enterprise app really needs to go. And they're showing this branching on their screen now, working with multiple people, bringing in certain things. I love this part of it, the testing, how you can create your own QA tests within the Flutter Flow itself. That just goes to show, like, this is a company trying to build reliable, solid technology for their users, and they're giving their users the tools to do that, right? So I absolutely love that. They get into the cloud functions here, making it easier to really, have the customization to do whatever you need at whatever level you need with your added JavaScript code. It makes it easier to deploy AI, things like that. They get into still that visual drag and drop interface in that way. That clear logic builder was really nice as well. If I fast forward a little bit here, we get into the iPad app, which is just
Oh, wow.
fun, right? Like, I don't know if I'd want to be building with an Apple Pencil, but that looks fun. That looks really cool. Again, Flutter Flow is really meant for that of an iPad, that of mobile apps rather than a desktop app. And the feedback that I've gotten so far from Flutterflow is that it's still a little bit hard to, build with at a desktop level, but great for mobile. They have this screenshot generator, so you can just create awesome, beautiful screenshots, knowing that software developers want to post awesome screenshots. And so you could fill it in with dummy data to like make it really easy to post those screenshots. Like, this is
You can use it in the
innovation,
App Store, yeah.
right? That is innovation. And you would hope that we would start to see more of that around the clock from, other companies such as that of a Bubble or WeWeb, all that kind of stuff. And I think Flutterflow has been really good at allowing you to integrate AI into your applications, at creating native mobile applications, and now the new team features with branching, this automated QA, all this kind of stuff. I really love the direction they're going.
Yeah, this looks really awesome. Uh, building web app. I mean, Bubble IO, great website, not really used on on the mobile side. Having a mobile builder is great. There have been others in the past, like Funkable that and Adalo that are, I think Glide as well, mostly mobile. That are building like structured mobile app stuff. But this is a really cool way to build mobile uh, applications. Push them through the App Store. Right, App Store is a great way for marketing. You
Yeah.
want to use that there. This is really cool. I
Yeah.
wonder how advantageous that iPad app would be, unless you can use it like without internet, which you can't build offline in most other tools. If you can build offline, great. Like I'd love to build a mobile app while sitting on a plane.
Yeah.
But if
Maybe
I
because they're aiming for mobile app, like they build mobile apps, like the iPad apps and mobile apps, like maybe just seeing the app as like on a true iPad and testing it that
yeah,
way.
I
It's
think
more native in
yeah,
that world because they really do focus on that.
yeah. So you could touch and test.
Yeah.
Right, like, that way you can it's a shorter iteration cycle. I could see that
Yeah.
being helpful, definitely.
Yeah. So
Uh,
they're doing some wonderful things, but why don't we get over to Doc Williams, who was the author of the 2020 No Code Report. Doc, welcome to the stage. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day for joining us today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
yeah,
This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, right back at you. So tell us a little bit about the 2022 report that you put together, how that came to be, and maybe we'll just go from there.
Yeah, so it came about. There was a lot of different founders, entrepreneurs, automation experts that there was a lot of people were talking about the no code space, and there was not an official composite or a report of what was going on in the industry. So that's why I decided to put this together. I started talking to Max with 100 days of no code, and I was like,
Yep.
I just don't see anything in the space. So I want to put it out there, and
Yeah.
so that's what
Awesome.
happened.
And did you work with the University of Calgary for this?
Yeah, yeah. So what happened was I was working on this, and one of the professors for entrepreneurship that is,
Mohammed?
yep,
Yep.
in the space, he reached out and he's like, "Hey, you're doing this. I think we should sponsor this. This is something that we want
Cool.
to really be ahead of and stuff like that." So we collaborated and everything like that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm going to pull it up here so we can see your report that you put together. Let's maybe talk about some of the key findings that, you were maybe most surprised with. On the screen here, I'm showing that the most popular label that responds to, who a no coder is was 45% entrepreneur, 20% creator, 20% no coder. So generally, we're seeing entrepreneurs that want to build stuff that learn it for themselves so they can bring their dreams to life.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think a lot of people have either tried hiring a developer or tried it themselves and it just didn't go well. So they're like, I'm going to do it myself, build this first version one. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And it kind of tracks, especially when we look at the different tools people are using. They're either using it and doing it as a side hustle. They're working and doing something else, or this is an extension arm and this is the first time they're going into this tech world and now they're utilizing, no code.
That's actually, JJ and I, both of us, maybe you as well. We started as entrepreneurs with traditional code, trying to get something off the ground, and said, "Yeah, we're going to build ourselves now." So, not that surprised that entrepreneur first is what people are identifying. But I will ask the question. We just covered this in our little news segment a few minutes ago. Airtable's pushing into the enterprise. Enterprises, entrepreneurs, kind of at odds with each other, how they work and how they operate. Do you think that they're making a mistake? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough because I mean, being selfishly, I think they're making a mistake, but also they know how much VC funding that they have and how many masters that they have to do. So it kind of makes sense for them to go in a direction that's the most profitable. I view this, and I say this a lot, maybe I'm cynical, but I'm like, a lot of companies they'll use hobbyists or use the entrepreneurs and then they'll shift. I mean, I'm always telling people like just be realistic.
Yeah.
Companies can shift, just don't feel like they owe you anything. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they're doing this as their first, foray into this. So it's sad to see it, but I'm like, yeah, I mean, I view that the same way as like in a lot of ways, I feel like Glide has abandoned smaller ones and gone for enterprise too. So I'm like, yeah, this is a trend. Yeah.
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 It just happened across the board with no code. I think as no code becomes more adopted to enterprises, no code companies themselves are seeing the price tags that they can bring in from these clients. And then they're like, I want more of those. And our shareholders want more of those. And then it just leads
Mhm.
that way. And as someone that works in the enterprise no code space, I'm happy to see that because then that means more opportunities for professional no coders making real money. So I'm stoked for that. But I think the barrier to entry now is becoming a little bit more than what it was originally, which is anyone can do it. Now it's like, Bubble takes 3 to 6 months to really do it. And I'm sure that will continue to climb as new things are introduced. So it's interesting how this is kind of impacting both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think also too, like just because their messaging is gonna change, I still think small creators and, like, tinkerers, builders, whatever, can still get in
Mhm.
if you use their free plans or something like that. I see a lot of people doing pushback. I mean, well, if you want, we can talk about the bubble pricing or whatever, but the thing is, I feel like if you want to test it out and validate it, you can still do it cheap,
Yeah.
and if you don't have something that people are willing to spend on, that's a clear indication it's a harsh truth. A lot of people will like want to buck it, and it's just it's an uncomfortable conversation where it's like, I'm not making enough. I thought this is where I was going. I have to figure out how to make the revenue work. But I still think it's a ultimate test of market, market fit, if what's going on, if you're in the right direction. And maybe
Yeah.
it's more creative of like, how are we going to get paid? And like you said, I like what you mentioned. I view it as, if your micro SaaS, your app doesn't work, you've learned all those skills, and then go into one of the expert programs of whatever platform that they're looking for,
Yeah.
and start making money, another stream of income that way, working with other, enterprise clients or something like that. I just think there's a lot of money that people can take advantage of to still make it profitable for someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started off because I was an entrepreneur. I wanted to scratch my own itch. I built the application and then I ended up selling it, which was thankful for. Funny story. I had before that, as a not technical founder, went with traditional coding solution, spent around $300,000 in MVP. That company failed. I turned to no code to try and save that company. I ended up selling my no code app and using some of that money to pay off the debt that I used or got from the first app, right? So I have gone both routes. I know both routes, but long story short, after that, I realized I love building with no code so much that I now want to take the skills that I learned of building this company and use it. And I went straight into a six-figure no coding job, and I have been there ever since. And now I teach others how to do that. And so it's awesome that entrepreneurs now have this tool set. I came across one the other day on LinkedIn. We charge at our agency $20,000 for an MVP. We'll do it in like 4 to 8 weeks, enterprise ready, all that kind of stuff. And to most, that is like a steal. But then there's still some like entrepreneurs on LinkedIn the other day. They're like, you're charging 20 grand for an MVP on no code. You're ripping everyone off. Come back to the earth or whatever. And so you still got that tension
Yeah.
of like, well, it's no code, so it must be cheap and it must be easy and a template. That kind of thing still exists because it's still a newer industry and people still being educated on what's possible and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I usually just tell people, I'm like, okay, so what is that time worth? Like, if you feel like it's too much, I that's why I'm always like, okay, I'll downshift. I'll consult with you for less, and you've only got this much time with me, and you go build it. Like, you're paying for speed and efficiency and professionalism. Like, that's baked into the price, at least. That's not even the
Yeah.
tax I put on top of. I just call it like just a jerk tax or whatever you want, because if they're clients that
Yeah.
just make you wanna drink at night, I've gotta put 20% on top of that. So, it's it's yeah, it's no code, but guess what? Like, it's still getting the job done, and it's getting where you need to be. So, it's a great solution. Yep.
Faster than others too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And most of the
Absolutely.
time, people are buying the business, not the tech. Like,
Yep.
I'm not building a new AI LLM in Bubble. I'm building an application to do a job, right? That's what I need it to do. As long as that happens and someone's willing to pay me for that thing, what else does it matter, right? Why does it like people make money on selling spreadsheets. Right? There's no app there. They're just selling the information. What else do you really need?
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
about it. Just pick the right tool for the job, and time is money. So whatever money I save you by saving you time, you can pay to me.
Well, and you just want to fail faster than, like I would rather fail in 2 months because I got my MVP to market in 2 months and realized it sucked rather than 2 years because it took me 2 years to get to market and then it sucked. So I'd rather fail faster, which meaning I can learn faster, I can iterate faster, I could find success faster, and it costs less because I'm moving faster with no code.
Let's keep going through this report.
Let's do it.
Any other surprises? What was okay? Yeah,
Let's go with this one. So, I would say that you know what? I'll put it this way. I have found that a lot of it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I hate to be like this, but a lot of the times I say, when I was having conversations, a lot of people are like, I can't believe a lot of people have not made money. It's like almost half and half. And I'll just say, I think a lot of people either go two different routes. They try to create the perfect MVP before they launch, and so they don't make money because they haven't released it. Or number 2, I think a lot of people are afraid of not just expressing how much they think it should cost, and that's where the hang up of like, "Well, it's not ready," all these excuses, where they could probably do close to 50% less of what they did to just see if it validates and if they're on the right track and charge a pre-sale amount, and really see if they have traction. I would say that's the biggest talking point, other than, like, we'll talk about later on how people make money and the breakdown of that.
So,
Interesting.
so you're saying essentially no coders still just building too much before, waiting to get the market
Absolutely.
and test it out. Yeah.
Absolutely. They build too much and they go on product hunt, they see what's launching next. They spend 2 months on a new platform. Then they go back to the platform they were used to before. Then
Mm.
they complain about it. Then they don't launch it. It's like, listen, bro, we already know you're going to end up on Bubble or Flutter Flow or Glide. Like, those are going to be the ones you go back. You go to the new ones, you get frustrated,
Mhm.
all those things. Also, too, Softer doesn't allow you to do a lot of things, but it allows people to move a lot quicker and to make it look nice,
Yeah.
to validate. So I think people just need to do that and put a time limit. A lot of my students or my clients, I have this, in certain contracts. Like, if they refuse to launch it or after like these prerequisites, you just have to pay me. You have to pay me an extra
Yeah.
because you just are wasting my time.
Wow,
You're
that's
wasting your time,
awesome.
but you're
That's
wasting
great.
my time. And so, yeah,
Doc, how can we be more like you? That's fantastic. Like,
Th
it's
this is one of
stressful.
those things that, like, if you had hired a developer, you would have stopped building stuff because you could keep paying. But because these tools make it so easy to build, you go, "Oh, it'll just take me 30 minutes." And 8 hours later, you're in some other part of the application,
Yeah,
and you're like, "What have I built?"
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
this is a monster app, and now you have to support it, and now you have to QA it, and now everyone wants, if you give a mouse a cookie, right? Like, "Oh, you add that button, and now I need to build you a race car." Like, it becomes a little insane. And
yeah,
so taking that moment to edit, especially as a solo founder, you wanna just run ahead and there's no one, like, gut checking. You're just like, "This sounds like a great idea. Let me just build it." But if you had someone on the other side going, "Yeah, that's 20 grand," you'd be like, "Yeah, I don't need that.
yeah,
I don't want it. I don't need it." And so they're just not. The other point, you mentioned pricing. If you follow, Patrick Campbell on Twitter, he's the founder of Profitwell, bootstrap founder, sold for $200 million to Paddle, a couple of years.
mm,
He would just say, by default, you're not charging.
yeah.
Like, 3x your price, see how it goes. Like, he just says, "Just raise your prices, send the email, um, just go get more money."
yeah, yeah,
I
definitely.
think I think that's just, with no code, things become a lot easier. And so you could just say, I'll just build it in 2 hours. I'll just build it in 2 hours. And then all of a sudden you have so much functionality that you didn't really aim to build or set out to do or even solving your problems. But it's like maybe a lot of us are first time builders and they're just like, well, I can build it finally, so I'm gonna go build it. And I just keep building. I enjoy it so much that I forget about the business. Right. And then it's like, well, where's my business come in? And so a lot of the audits that I'm doing, I'm actually just telling buddy, it's like, "You built too much. You need to launch. Like, you're
Mhm.
40% beyond the tech you needed to launch. Launch."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah, there's that famous Mark Twain quote, "I don't have time to write you a short letter, but I'll write you a long letter." Like, you can just write, but the editing part is what you need to spend a lot of time.
yeah, yeah,
Doc,
definitely.
what can we expect for 2023? Are you gonna do another report? And if so, or even way, what do you think are the trends that we would think to see or find in the 2023 report?
So we are doing a new report, so I'm happy about that.
Great. Let us know how
Um,
we can help.
I will right after
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I will send
Put
it.
the plu Well, you definitely get the plug-in and how to reach out to you. Everyone
Yeah.
listening, hit you up on this.
There we
Good
go.
times. Thank you very much. I mean, so we're doing the 2023 one, and the main thing that we're adding pretty much is AI with no code. I don't think it needs to be one or the other. I just think that AI is a great addition to what no code's doing. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh no, like this is another thing that's the savior." I'm like, "No, it's just another tool." But I think it's going to be transformative, and we see it. So, expounding on how people are using AI with no code, what are they doing with this in their business right now? And then what they're planning to do with it, like long term. I think that's the biggest thing of the report. And then also too, we're going to have data to compare last year, how people are making the most money, to this year. Has it changed with the economy changing? What's going on? A lot of people just think that you need to build apps for people, but the automation agencies have
Yeah.
crazy margins, and I feel like they don't talk a lot on Twitter because they're just making so much money. They just let the builders and no code like,
Take
yeah, you're
note,
making
David.
this.
Let's do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're just like making a lot of money and they don't want to tell people, or they're just too busy making money. But
Yeah.
I think I tell people all the time, like, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, they're doing manual work that if you help them to either save time or make more money, they will compensate you with either tying it directly to how much revenue you're bringing in, or a very lucrative salary that you can command based on the things that you're doing. So, excited to see what happens there.
It really is groundbreaking what you can do with no code and automation. Like before I even got started with Bubble, I just created a no code automation with Zapier, Typeform, Active Campaigns, and it was essentially like and Wix. You put a
Mm,
quiz on top of a landing page. You try to get SEO for that landing page for a certain keyword. That quiz would then qualify you for one of two channels, and then they would enter you into a remarketing cycle, right? And then whenever they made a purchase, they would be binged and Stripe taken out of the thing. That ended up generating about 300 organic leads a month, right? And leading to a lot of sales for them that I built for them in-house. Didn't need to manage any of it. It was all automated. They're still running, right? And so, like,
mhm.
that's a small business learning how to do it for the first time. And really, that's like getting an extra person on salary for free. And
Yeah.
so we're just tapping the potential of no code automation. I do group AI in with no code as well. It's just how can we do things faster, better, in an automated way, prompting with AI, all that kind of stuff allows for that too. So I do think it is incredible what we can do going forward. Any new popular tools or anything else that you could share for 2023 before we wrap up here?
Yeah, so it kind of just depends, but I think you're going to be seeing industry specific no code or AI tools that are really going to make a difference. The general, yes, ChatGPT, that's great, but I think there's a few that stand out. Number one, it would be Autopod. That is a plugin that allows you to edit multi-camera um, video podcasts within
Yep.
just a few minutes. So that saves you hours and hours. I think editors and just either entrepreneurs doing that themselves or editors in that field, they're going to make tons of money. Also, too, the Rowie team released something called Build Ship in the last couple of days. That's interesting to me. That's going to do a lot with a mixture of AI and low code, but visually, if you're doing things with APIs, just if you struggle with writing out APIs and the documentation, there's a lot of things that Build Ship's going to do. And I brought them up 2 years in a row. I just think they need better marketing, but I'm really bullish on Canonic. Not a lot of people talk about them. They don't talk about it themselves enough. But Canonic, I think, is going to have a breakout year for 2023.
What are they? Like a quick one liner on that?
Oh, a
Is this like
Canonic.
I'll share
Okay.
this page right here. Let's see. This is their website here. Simplest way for agile teams to build internal tools.
And see, let me just get on. I'm sorry, this rant. If I hear one
You know,
more no code tool that is pivoting, that they just do internal tools,
internal tools.
I'm good. You could be doing a drinking game. I hear it with Softer now. I hear it with Buddy Base. Like, yes, we get it. We get it. We get that you can do retool.
Enterprise market. That's why.
Oh my God.
Enterprise.
But the
Yeah.
thing is with Canonic is not only when you're building it out visually, it builds out your entire API documentation. It builds out everything that you need to do in boiler like code. If you're doing anything, even with a coding team, it's a great, great thing. And I
Right.
just feel like they don't even know how to market themselves, but they are phenomenal. They are phenomenal. So I'm hoping that they'll break through for 2024.
Interesting. I don't understand this like, why do we need agile teams? Like, agile to me is like, oh, only a scrum master can use
That's what
it.
I think as well.
I
Yeah.
know.
This
I
doesn't
know.
help. And
It's
only
just
critical
jargon.
tasks. In fact, I'd say, I don't know, you want everything running through here.
It's
Anything can be
just
built.
this is what we're talking about. The
I don't
marketing.
know.
It's the marketing.
It's a new industry. Everyone's trying to figure it out. It's a fast changing industry that is highly, versatile. Things are just changing all the time. It's hard to get people's attention. So I understand that. I think the benefit is we all get to benefit all the greatness that is happening. It's a lot to, figure out what this tools are. And that's kind of where this podcast can hopefully help you learn these tools, stay up to date with the trends, all that kind of stuff. So we're here to help you with that as we do it ourselves. So I think bullish on no code, right? Matter of fact, before we ended here, Doc, let's get back to you for a sec. How can people find you to help contribute for 2023? We could put it in the comments as well, but before that,
Awesome. So,
And tell us what else you have going on besides.
oh,
yeah,
yeah. So, this is going to be a little bit off the beaten path, I guess. I've got something called DIY Media Makers. And so that's teaching people how to stand out in their industry. So,
cool.
how they can create a portfolio of work to have multiple streams of income. So, that's the newest thing. It's kind of in a different vertical, but I use a lot of no code tools. But what I found is a lot of people are like, Doc, shut up. Just tell me about how to build this app. And so we just had to build something totally different. So that's DIY Media Makers. We have that coming out. And we're doing a lot of content to show people how to break into any industry with no code. We just did it with the NBA and going to NBA Summer League. So we're going to be showing a case study there and how we're launching or potentially launching a movie to get on Netflix, all with no code tools, all of those things. So follow everyone, us over there at DIY Media Makers. If you want to contribute, underscore DOC Williams, underscore Doc Williams on Twitter. Hit me up. Let me know. We're going to actually have a new form that's launching very soon where we're going to have people that can now fill out an assessment and intake form for 2023. So I would love for people to contribute. And then, at the end of the year, we're going to release the findings for what we found for this year. So that's what we're going to do.
My company, No Code Alliance, can also help. We have over 900 no code devs that are signed up, and a lot of them have already submitted anonymously their salary and their hourly rates of what they get paid for each tool. So we can help contribute that knowledge towards this report if it's helpful.
That would be awesome, man. That would be awesome. And then also if anyone I'm the most active on YouTube, so it'd be just youtube.com/DOC Williams
Cool.
and ask any questions, community tab, whatever. But I'll be there and would love to talk to everyone.
Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thanks.
having me.
No problem. See ya. Thank you, Doc, for that. That was awesome having you on talking about the 2022 no code industry report. Now coming up with the 2023, things are changing fast. It's nice to have a report like this, some kind of, you know, authority in the industry to kind of help bring more, like let businesses know this is happening. A lot of people are looking at this.
Mhm.
These are the tools they're looking at, all that kind of stuff. Like before I was getting into that, I was talking about I recently posted on Twitter, TikTok. I've been trying to be more active on TikTok. It's a
Yeah.
crazy world over there, let me tell you. So I was posting this video on TikTok, and the video, let me see if I could pull it up quick because this video got so much heat in a negative way that, but it was a good way, but it was a negative way of just traditional coders saying, "Oh, no code can't do that. No code can't do that," etc. Right? So
Yeah.
let me pull this up real quick. Let's see here. Here we go. We're gonna stream it, and here we go, and
We
boom.
are sitting at the midpoint of the low code shift, the low code revolution. By 2026, 75% of enterprise app development will be done with low code tools like the Power Platform.
That's just exciting. We have so much infrastructure around us built on old technology that is not meant to be in the current day, that is too expensive to maintain, to service, that needs to be replaced. That's where no code comes in. And no code is just not no code. It's not powerful. It's whatever. No code is a visual way to build what you need to do in a quick, easy fashion, right? So I go on to talk about this, but so I have 60 comments here. Some of them are no code is only able to solve known solved stuff. Can't really solve anything new because someone had to code it before. I create new things every day. Traditionally, the code generated from these solutions was poor, fair. They're talking about exporting the code. That's
Yeah.
fair. It can lack flexibility. Not really. This
I
is
mean,
utter
that's bad
nonsense.
code. What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is utter nonsense. Let's see what else. 75% no, not knocking your product, just disclaim is wild. Low code is low quality. You got it wrong. This has failed time and time again. No code has never worked. All this kind of stuff, right?
Why is it okay that AI, some just random probability code, is gonna do that much better than you sitting there making it work?
I don't know. You know what? Like I'm very active on Twitter, and I feel like I've been in a bubble on Twitter of no code people supporting no code. And
Yeah.
so getting into TikTok for the first time, really seeing so many traditional devs, some of which were saying they've been doing this for 20 years. They're probably really good with what they do, right? Technology has changed a lot in 20 years. Bubble wasn't even invented 20 years ago. It was invented 10 years ago. And yet, you know what I mean? So everybody can still learn a whole lot more about no code. It is such a new industry. There's so much more awareness that needs to happen, right? The fact that, all of these people are just hating on it. I'm not saying it's the best thing ever. I'm not saying that traditional technologies aren't needed anymore. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying you need to solve a problem for your customers. And you can now use easier solutions to do that faster and more affordable than an older solution, which is sometimes the traditional technology.
Yeah. It's definitely not a trade-off of no code is better than code always, right?
Right.
That's not the point. The point is sometimes a fully coded system and a year of learning how to code a little bit and or $50,000 in dev costs isn't what you need to run with.
Yeah.
In depending on what you're looking for, 3 months of learning, you can build it out yourself. And it does enough because 90% of apps never go anywhere. 99% don't get the scale that you're handling billions of clicks or millions of server logs. Like you're not running these huge, really intense apps that, yeah, you want control over some of these like infrastructure level problems. We're not saying you can build CloudFront on Bubble. Like
Right.
that's not what we're saying. But, building a simple networking app,
That
yeah,
maybe gets
that's not good.
100,000 concurrent users.
Yeah.
It's still possible.
Yeah.
You're not gonna it's not gonna be the next Twitter where you have 100 million concurrent users. You're not getting there. But
Yeah.
100,000, you could do that on no code. And guess what? If you have 100,000 concurrent users, you have a freaking really good business. And how hard is it to get there? It's very hard to get there. And that could be a problem that you solve if you ever get there. But first, you got to get there. And in order to get there, you got to be able to afford that journey. You got to move quick enough to adapt to user feedback. You need to get your product out there to actually make it. There's so many things. So it's like,
Yeah.
if this can get no code and most of these tools can get you to 100,000 plus, right? Why not start there? And then if it ever becomes an issue, then you can do it then. You can slowly offload things. You don't need to do the whole platform, but
Yeah.
first you got to make a successful business.
Yeah. And even businesses that are coded, and I don't want to pit code versus not code
Yeah.
and no code against each other. They're two different things used in different ways. Worth noting that even with code, you will have to rebuild things.
Yep. Yep.
Right. It will change.
All right. Well, that's the end of that rant. Why don't we move into community real quick? We just have one community spotlight today. Wanted to bring more attention to the India summit that is happening in Bubble in the October 13th and 14th. So this is right after the No Code summit in Paris. I'll be speaking there among some of the other Bubble builders. More announcers are still coming. It's really great to see something like this coming out of India. This is all community led. No one's really making a profit here. They're all just kind of doing it to bring the community together. So really happy to do this. Also happy to support them with this. We'll put the link in our bio or description of this if you want to participate and tune into some of our sessions as well.
Yeah, looking forward to that. That one, that what I've seen so far on Twitter come out feels a little bit more community driven sessions educational,
Yeah.
bubbler helping bubbler, not just kind of like centralized networking.
Generally, I'm just really excited about the Bubble India segment. I'm excited to see the community step up and put that together. That's really community driven. So that's awesome. Just a reminder, this section in our podcast, we're going to have it every week. It's for you guys. It's to allow us to use our network, our audience to help you launch new things, new businesses that you're creating on no code, answer questions that you might have. We want to reserve this for you. So if you want to submit anything for our episode next week, because we're a weekly podcast, check out the comments. We're going to post how you can do that below. Otherwise, this section's for you. Let us know how we can help you.
Yeah. A new announcement, new feature, something interesting that you found from somebody else. Let us know about it. And maybe we'll even pull you up into the pod, depending on what it is.
There you go. So this is the conclusion of our first episode of This Week in No Code. We covered a lot today. This is going to be a weekly thing going forward. We're going to be switching it up every single week. Topics, news, obviously, community stuff. Sometimes we'll bring in interviews. Sometimes we won't. We're going to line up a lot of interviews with founders of no code tools itself, and we'll do deep dives on those no code tools at those times. But generally, this should be a podcast where you want to stay updated with all of the no code things, all the no code tools, the news, how these tools can help benefit you solve real problems in your life. Even if you're not a no code bubble pro like us, that's okay. We want to make it really easy for you to be involved and to be educated on this platform and to know how you can gain advantages from using no code and automation in your businesses to do things that you are otherwise doing in a faster way. So whether you have a ton of experience or no experience, we want this podcast to be for you. Please leave us comments. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and colleagues if you like it. Let us know more content that you want us to talk about. We're here for you, and that's one of the beautiful things about putting this podcast together. So David, thank you for joining me today on This Week in No Code. We will see you guys next week, and until then, catch you later.